down from the last little session we had. No, I'm all good. Well, guys, I first of all, I really appreciate everybody coming out to listen to us ramble about catching crappie. And anyway, my name is Ronnie Capps, and my partner Steve Coleman's here. We been chasing crappie all of our life, I guess, pretty much. More than 30 years, so that's a big part of it anyway. But
all time.
Over the years, I fished a lot of places and learned a lot of things, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to share a few of them with you. Hopefully you'll take something with you when you go and catch a few more fish next time you're on the lake, and hopefully you won't beat me in the tournament because of what I tell you. But yeah. I've had exactly that happen. I've had friends that were big golfers, and they'd sell all their clubs and buy a new fishing boat and fish a time or two with me and then beat me in the national championship. That's happened a couple of times, matter of fact. So, but it don't hurt my feelings at all. I like the competition, and honestly, it'll make a better fisherman out of you to go when it's bad. Usually the bad days are the best days, if you will, because you always find out how tough you are and how to do something under a little bit of adversity. And I'm telling you, when you're fishing competitively, that's going to hit you. I don't care where you go. Usually you're counting on a good day. Everybody does, but most of the time they turn out bad. It seems like in springtime we can get maybe one tournament, if we're lucky, throughout the year where you don't have to fight Mother Nature in some sort of way or fashion. But anyway, I'm gonna open up. The last session we did, I rambled a lot, didn't talk about one specific thing, but first of all, be thinking about anything you want to fire at me, whether it's during the hour that I talk or afterwards or whatever, but I sure would like to include everybody, try to answer any questions I can. If you got a particular question about something revolving around the crappie world, I will give you my answer. Might not be the best one, but it'll be mine, and what I give you will be based on past experiences and all of them put together in my best answer. So hopefully it'll save you a little bit of time and catch you a few more fish out there. But first of all, I'd like to know where most of the people are from. What's the furthest person here from Memphis? Anybody travel long distance to get here for this show? South Haven. You ain't far. Anybody, all right? Anybody out of state other than Mississippi or Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Idaho.
I believe you're fitting to win.
Yeah.
I had never fished in that state. You have black crappie, I bet. Any white? No, all black.
The projector's off center too.
Minnesota, black. Michigan is about as far north as I've ever fished in a competitive tournament. We fished at Houghton Lake, Michigan one year. That was a little bit different experience, especially for a country boy down from Reelfoot Lake. And I'm always able to see the shoreline, and I got in Michigan and Houghton Lake, and I needed a GPS pretty bad.
Is that where we stopped when we eat Burger King?
Memories, man. But yeah, that was probably one of the first lakes I ever fished where I was so far offshore that I couldn't see the shore. That makes you feel pretty odd. Bill, you ever done that? No. Yeah, well, when you're out in the middle of feel like to be the ocean, trying to find a little hump out there to see if you can find a crappie around it, it feels pretty weird. But we did that.
Like Michigan, but I was close to the bank.
That's one of the only times I ever had to really count on the GPS to get me back. But boy, that's been a while ago. So anyway, we got Idaho. Any lakes that along this trail that people fish typically? Give me a home lake for maybe Arca-Butler. Yeah, we got that one covered. Where else? Some other lakes? Grenada, Arca-Butler, Mississippi Sardis. I'm sure some of them. Anywhere else? Kentucky Lake. Yes, sir.
I'd like to have some information on Henry Neely.
Ooh. See, I got competitors. They sliding in the back door on me here. Green Lake, I can help you. Bill asked about Neely Henry. It's down in Gadsden, Alabama. That'll be the first stop on the ACT American Crappie Trail this year. We'll be in Gadsden, Alabama. Great spot to catch a huge fish. The only 4-pound crappie I ever seen weighed in a national sanctioned tournament was at Neely Henry. And I won't ever forget laying eyes on that fish, ever. It didn't look like a crappie. It looked like a buffalo. It's in around Gadsden, Alabama. It's on central South Alabama, on down Weiss Lake. Weiss Lake connects. It's the Coosa River, what it is. The reason they have such big fish is they have a natural cross fish in that river. It's a cross between the black and the white. It's not introduced. It's not stocked. It's a natural cross. And boy, do those fish, they usually win the big fish of the tournament every time down there, but they grow some monsters. 412. 412. He was alive. He was laying in a 48-quart cooler, and he touched both sides, and he was almost as long as the interior of that 48-quart cooler. I'll never forget seeing him, but anyway, that was a whale. Okay, any other lakes other than the Mississippi's? That's it. Kentucky. Anywhere else? Clear lakes, big lakes, little lakes, something like that. Clear's Ferry. Clear, a little bit clearer. So, where do you like to fish?
Just a home neighborhood lake.
Pond. Pond. I had a pond y'all ago. Private pond. You know, well, every lake has been mentioned. I can tell you the techniques that we use and that we count on will work at any of those lakes that you've mentioned to me. Minnow rigging is our first bread and butter technique, and most anybody that's ever fished with a multi-pole set, more than one rod, typically have minnow rig somewhere down the road. How many have tried a multi-pole, or how many single pole fishermen I have that, and they're exclusive single pole, one single pole guy only. Never been with a friend even that fished more than one. You like to? Hey, I do too. I just can't compete with one usually. So we got one single pole fisherman. Everybody else been minnow rigging. I know that's all they do, minnow rig, right? Yep. So y'all like to invite a bunch of friends to the fish fry. See, he probably just fries a couple.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No more fun. There's no more fun than getting on a shoreline with some structure with a jig pole in your hand when them old males are colored up about another second week of April. Right down here, right. Where do you like? What's your favorite lake? Barnett. Woo wee. Some big ones down there. Yeah. I'd brag a little bit, but I'd be afraid to be able to say something. I've never been to Ross Barnett without winning, ever. Right. And I've been a bunch of times, except one time. And they canceled the tournament on me. They canceled it because it snowed so much and it was so bad, they canceled the tournament. And we turned around and come home. The only time I've ever been down there and didn't win. And I've been quite a few. Won national championship on Barnett one time. That's a huge, dangerous lake. Dangerous, without a doubt, when it gets windy. But you know, those male fish get around that shoreline, and it is some kind of fun up there around Horseshoe. Wee! And them standing trees, stumps and stuff. Lots of fun. But still, I'll probably beat you now out there on that channel out there. I'll catch them big females. And I'll be doing it with more than one pole, I guarantee it. Down at Barnett, we load the minnow rig too. It's usually on the channel bank early, as long as we don't have a flood down there. Those old lakes are very deadly. Not where the stumpage is on the perimeter, but in the center of the mud. Don't you be trying none of that, Bill. I don't know why they like places like that. They'll settle into those flats and those old lakes, and they really produce some big old fish down there at that time of year, early. So I'm heading to the technique of minnow rigging. You can tell where I'm headed just as fast as I can go. Minnow rigging is probably our #1 bread and butter technique. The other one that we'll always have a set of poles rigged especially for it will be fishing a multi-pole set with a single jig, typically single only, one jig only. I want to ever couple 2 jigs together. However, I will always fish a double hook live bait rig. Those 2 sets of rods will be in our boat anywhere we go. There might be other stuff in our boat, but those two, you can bet they'll be there. We can pretty much do anything with a set of poles rigged with single jigs or a set of poles rigged with minnow rigs. There's nowhere in the country that I can't fish with those two sets. There's no depth, there's no time of year, there's no time, no anywhere, nothing. I can do it with those poles. Even if I got to use less than 8 poles or 6 or whatever the state allows. Sometimes we have to because of structure, but that'll get you down the road with crappie fishing. If you can master both of those sets and both of those techniques, multi-pole fishing, you can catch them anywhere and beat anybody. Yes, sir.
One jig pole you're talking about, is that just because you're in shallow water?
Most of the time, I'll let the water depth determine what I'll be using. Most often, 7 foot shallower. I'm subject to be fishing a single jig set if there's a lot of structure. If there's not a lot of structure, I'll hang with that minnow rig as long as I can. 2 hooks is usually better than 1 when you're in some dingy type water or some water in the fall that's not real healthy water. I would say oxygen content varies. I'll start off talking about the minnow rig and also about B&M. Before I get too far, I want to tell you the reason that I'm here today is because Jack Wells and Mr. Buck Simmons down in West Point, Mississippi have believed in crappie fishermen and crappie clubs and crappie tournament trails for more than 30 years. I'm telling you, we fished with cane poles when I knew Mr. Buck, and I will never forget when the first one come out, but they've been in this business since the beginning. I'm telling you, all the way back before we started fishing. They sold cane poles, and they've listened to us, thank goodness. But anyway, they have made their way to the top of the top as far as I think the best quality crappie rods or poles, or whatever you want to call them, that are out there for whatever technique you want to do. There's a variety of stuff that I can talk about any of them. I can do any of them, from shooting docks to multi-pole fishing with minnow rigs to casting. There's all varieties of poles that B&M carries, and whatever you like to do, whether it's with that one pole with a BBUL in your hand, I'll show you one of them before you leave, you'll like it, to trolling with the stiffest, biggest, heaviest weights, stiffest rods, whatever that they make. I can tell you all about that. I don't know if we have enough time, but I'd be glad to try. So anyway, back to the minnow rigging. B&M also sells the rigs. For the past few years, we went through lots of trouble getting those things tied and put on a display for you to be able to buy versus tie your own. I don't deny anything. We've had trouble with some of them, honestly. Getting it done right, because I'm very picky about how they're tied, was a problem early on. We're getting a lot of the kinks worked out. I'm not saying that they're not all 100% worked out, but I'm telling you, we've done all we can do to get them as perfect as we can get them. But when you buy a minnow rig from B&M poles, it's there's going to be 5 options for you to choose from you on the shelf. It should be a 1/4 ounce. There'll be a 3/8 to follow, and then a half hit right in the middle, a 3/4 and a 1. Those 5 sizes should fish anywhere from 25, 35 foot of water to 2 to 3, 4 foot of water, depending on the weight size. I'll always move up in weight size when I move down in depth. That's common. When you see these little items tied, this is what the old pack looked like. This would be the hard pack that you might have been used to seeing on the shelf way back when. This happens to be a 1/4 ounce, but anymore, the rig will be put in a soft pack. You'll see them on the shelf. There'll be a little tag on it. I've jerked it off. But anyway, there'll be 6 rigs in a little soft pack. A little bit easier to stick in your tackle box, and I promise you, a whole lot easier to open. I had a little trouble getting them open myself sometimes. If you run out there without a knife, you'd be gnawing on it, trying to get it open. I've had some trouble with that. But anyway, long story short, they're tied, and they're tied perfectly to fit the water column according to the weight size and the depth you want to fish. As those rigs migrate up, as they migrate up in size, this happens to be a 3/8 right here, one of my favorite for sure, Real Foot Lake. Favorite all around. I'll go lighter. I'll go to a quarter if I'm fishing shallower down there, or certain instances. The lighter you can go, the better. However, there's pluses and minuses with a lighter weight. But anyway, it looks pretty simple. It looks like, man, that's simple. I can do that. I promise you, I doubt if anybody can sit here and tie me one that looks exactly like that the first time. The hook dropper, the distance between the swivel at the top and the hook will be exactly the same every time. The distance between the sinker and the hook at the bottom will be exactly the same every time. The base of the rig between the sinker and the swivel will be the same every time when you unwind these. Very, very hard to do. If you've ever tried to sit down in the middle of the night and tie you some, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you and the vine and white caps are coming over the front of that boat, boy, it sure is nice. Grab one, tie it on, hook a couple minutes on, you're ready to go. But this rig, like I said, the base of the body of the rig will get longer as the sinker size goes down. You're down here at Sardis Dam and fishing 18 foot of water right now, 20 foot of water, whatever. You know, I've gone up at a 3/4 to 1 ounce size, and you're going to have more distance between hooks, basically is all it amounts to. You're covering more of the vertical water column with that hook spread a little bit more. Down Pickwick Lake, another place I like to use when I'm fishing 25 foot of water down there, we'll put a 1 ounce down and take off across a stump flat. I'll catch some fish. I'll catch some fish with old Roger down there. He'll be pulling sideways, but I'll get with him with the Minnow rigs, I promise you that. Anyway, if you had never tried them, I challenge you to give them a shot. I mean, there's all kinds of things out there, but boy, do I believe in them. When a crappie won't bite a live minnow, yeah, they ain't gonna hurt me. If he won't bite a live minnow, he won't bite hardly anything, I can tell you. Another advantage to having this rig, it's tied with a specific hook. It looks like maybe a little smaller hook than most people like to use. I'm telling you, it's a number two Eagle Claw. The number on the hook is a 214 EL. It's extra light hook. It's bronze color. It's at number 214. The lightest hook they make. Lots of advantages to having a hook with a light wire. The light wire hook will allow that minnow to do his job twice as good as a hook that's got heavy wire on it. I can tell you, first and foremost, and that's very important to me for the minnow to make some movements to create a bite. You put him on a heavy hook, it's amazing how much. If you don't believe me, if you got an aquarium, hook one with a big old gold 202 hooks, and hook one with this and let him swim around and see what happens. It's amazing how much difference the action is. But being a light wire hook, when you do get it hung up, this line should match the size of this hook good enough or strong enough to straighten the hook out, bend the hook somewhat to get you unhung versus breaking the rig. Not to say you're not going to break one, because you're going to, I'm telling you, sooner or later. But that hook will bend more often than not. I guarantee you, I can sit right here and just about make it the shape of a pin. Not quite, but done all I can do. I bend it with my bare hands. And I can put it right back with my bare hands too. And it won't look any different. I'm doing me, a lot of times I had to put tape on my hands to keep it. But we're ready to go. That's about how quick it is. Those hooks are very special in the function of that rig. We've used bigger hooks and stuff at times, depending on what kind of speed we're going. If you're going at a faster pace speed with these rigs, sometimes you'll get a reaction bite versus a scent bite, and you will need a bigger hook because there's a lot of pressure, and sometimes these big fish in Grenada, they will bend that hook out if you move it real fast. However, we've put some 3-pound fish in the boat with those right there, and I'd put it up against any hook anywhere. As long as you know how to fish, you can handle one with it. Anyway, the extreme of the minnow rigging, I mentioned earlier, we won a national championship at Grenada Lake. I guess it was probably in 2002, I believe is when it was, last time we won at Grenada, the big one. And we used this exact rig. It was about that distance, that much distance on the body of the rig, but we had it coupled with a 2-ounce egg sinker. not have 2 ounce. 2 ounce. It looked like it looked ridiculous, honestly. But to keep it vertical and to go the speed that we needed to go to get the bite, we had to go with a 2 ounce sinker. That's what we went with. We pushed 2 ounce sinkers. I bet I had 50 boats around me that sat there and watched me win the championship, and they didn't know what we were doing. And all we were doing really is we got a little bit faster than most of them to make the fish bite and hang on. You could get the bite going slow. We had many of them, and caught fish doing that. But the fish typically would not get on the hook unless she was going fast. And so that's one instance. That's pretty rare, honestly. Most of the time I want to fish these minnow rigs going ultra slow. That's my game. I catch more big fish going slow than I do fast, and I think you'll figure that out if you fish very much. Excuse me? What's slow? You know, anywhere from it won't register on your GPS to 0.2 maybe, 0.3. That's pretty slow. I tell you how slow it. I want to be going at a speed where I can barely detect forward movement. How about that? If you forget the GPS, watch the line. If you can see yourself moving forward across a flat, you're going fast enough. Now, honestly, I probably catch more fish sitting dead still with those rigs when I'm fishing structure. If I'm moving across a flat, yeah, I'll have a continuous movement with the boat. But fishing structure, I'll push it right up into it. I call it bulldozing. You're gonna be hung up. That's what I intend to do, get hung up. That's why I push it up in there. I'm putting those minnows as tight up in that structure, whatever it might be, a statement or a treetop, whatever, and let them do their work. Now I got some work getting it back out of there when they do their work. But I tell you what, the guy that can do that at the end of the day usually ends up with a bigger box of fish. Especially when fish are in clear water, when they're really relating to structure, and you really got to get right in there with them. They're not coming out of it to bite. You got to put the hook in there, and that's my favorite way to do it, really. The one thing I'll do if I'm in ultra thick cover, I will go up in line size to keep from breaking these off. I can't deal with a bunch of breaks. There's one rule of thumb that I've always had, and it'll always be, is I definitely rather be fishing with bigger line than I need to be, but fishing instead of tying knots with smaller line. That's just my take on it, but you can't catch fish if you're not fishing. And you got that thing in the boat all the time. So if you're gonna be broke off a lot when you first start out, if you're not used to doing this, you might want to get you some heavier line and try, you know, to keep from breaking, honestly, to begin with. But, yes, sir, 12, and I've gone up to 15. These rigs, they're tied with a minimal break strength line to match that hook for a bunch of reasons. You'll get more bites on this thing. You start tying it with 15 or 20 or 25 even. Some people use, when we first started, honestly, these rigs were made at Reelfoot Lake by people they sold thousands of them. They were made with 50-pound mono filament. And we caught plenty of crappie on 50 pounds then. Had little spinners, they had beads, had all kinds of things, but that was the deal. You had to be minnow rigging. I mean, that's how we caught fish at Reelfoot Lake. And boy, have we migrated a long ways, you know, since then, in fine-tuning these things to do what we want them to do. So anyway, if you had never tried them, I welcome you to try them, and I think you'll be pleased to, when you get out there and fish a few hours and some fish with them, they're going to catch you some fish. I promise you, they're pretty hard to beat. So any questions so far? I've not touched on everything minnow rigging, but any questions so far about maybe minnow rigging money?
Before you move up, what line size do you normally use if you're not in heavy cover breaking off?
Yeah, he's asking what line size do I like to use and start with, and what would I migrate to in heavy cover. At Reelfoot Lake, here's my favorite light setup on a good calm day where I don't have to fight with Mother Nature. I love to use a 1/4 ounce rig. 1/4 ounce, it'll be a yellow one, they'll have a packet of it. It'll be in a yellow wrapper, but I use a 1/4 and I'll use 10. Sometimes I'll use 8, but 10 will keep you in a lot better shape at the end of the day. If you start going lighter than 8, you're gonna be busy tying hooks. I'm telling you. But I go as light as I can go, a happy medium right there. But not a lot of difference with 8 and 10. But yes, it is. Sometimes, honestly, you'll get more bites on 8. But I can't keep myself from keeping it in the water with 10. So I usually go with 10. If I'm at Kentucky Lake and I know I'm pushing it into the biggest bunch of brush or stake bed that I know I'm going to get hung up, I've gone up to 15. I will even go past that if it's worse than, if we start breaking, I'll go to 20. Whatever it takes for you not to be breaking is what you need to make it to. It depends on the conditions, really. You can handle that boat a whole lot better when it's calm. You can in some white caps, man.
Day in and day out, you fish at 10 until you need to change it.
Yeah, and I'll go up, boy. I'm not scared to move up. Just depends on how much break's going on. That's what I let it. It tells me what I need to do. Yes, sir.
You're talking about fishing like straight bed. You're talking about getting the rig in the bed or just over the top?
Yep.
Down in
I'm gonna run right over it like a bulldozer. That's what I call this, our little technique most times.
lines to go through.
I have no time for playing around. I'm finna put it right in his face. If he don't bite it, I'm going to the next spot. But typically, I will start out a little lower on the treetop to grab some structure that I might not otherwise fish if I was fishing shallow. Typically, as you go up in depth, the structure laying on the bottom, it's more structure on the bottom than it would be at the top. So I try to catch the initial structure down low first. And when my poles detect that, or I'm looking at it on my 360, I know exactly when my hook's getting there anyway. I push it right into the edge of that, and I'll usually stop. I'll stop that boat, I'll have it dead still. And I'll sit there, and sometimes I'll sit there for 2 or 3 minutes. As long as I know my bait is touching structure, I'll hang in there. And a lot of times, the first bite won't ever come for maybe 2 minutes. It's crazy. You sit there, nothing, and all of a sudden one bites. Well, another bites, and it's like a chain reaction. And then you done caught 10 heads of fish, and all of them must have been scared to death when you first touched it. So they didn't want to bite right off the get-go. But they'll eventually start biting, and they start a frenzy sometimes. I mean, you sit there, catch 20 fish, and you couldn't get a bite to begin with. It's crazy. You can see them too. I mean, you can see the fish, but sometimes that's the way it is. The bites will start after you actually make the initial contact with the structure. But then I'll start reeling up. I'll usually reel up after I've done my deal on the edge of the structure. I'll get right over in it. I'll pick my sinker up a couple feet, 3 feet anyway, drop it right down in it, and put my pole holder right, all this requires precise handling of the boat. But I'll put it right down in it. I'm talking right in the middle of it.
8 poles with the center.
Well, sometimes, usually, I tell you what, 4 is all we fished in the championship. That's all you need. We're so specific now with the technology we got with that 360. And these other ones are wasted poles. 4 poles will cover most any structure I won't fish. We'll have a backup pole that'll sometimes even set and hold or won't be baited, but it's ready to go in the event that I were to break one off. But 4 is basically, 3 to 4 is what we like, because you've got so much going on, you'll mess around and lose some quality fish if you get too many rods out there. Now, all this, the ones that are not in the structure, they're wasting your time, and they're not going to help you any. You're not going to get a bite out here. Every bite's going to be right on that structure, especially in the fall. So anyway, I'll push it right in the middle of it, and then I'm out of there. They're going to let me know if they're there or not. And if they are, I'll hang with them for a while, but I usually get on out of there pretty quick. At the end of the day, if we run 40...
Good afternoon, Bass Pro shoppers, and welcome to Crappie Madness Event and Sale. Join us at the center of the pyramid for family fun with a casting challenge and free photo download. Kids who complete both activities will receive a free inflatable whopper. Also, from 2 to 4 p.m. today, sample Uncle Buck's fish fry in the general store while supplies last. As always, thank you for shopping at Bass Pro Shops at the Pyramid, where we all live downstream.
As I was talking about 40 good pieces of structure is about all I can make in a tournament. Maybe 50 or 60 if it's shallow water stuff, but typically at Kentucky Lake 40 is a whole lot. Considering I got to run between each one, depending on how big an area I'm trying to cover, but and what the structure might be. But anyway, if you fish 40 in a day, big pieces that are stretched over a few miles of river, you've done pretty good. Should have a box of fish. You know. Any questions at all on minnow rigging? There's so much to tell you. I can tell you.
Explain the T-bars and singles, Jeff.
What now?
T-bars and the singles.
The pole, the rod holders.
Yep.
Is anybody set up for multi-pole fishing here? Most everybody. Okay. How many are using T-bars? T-bars. Is anybody using independent rod holders? Not yet. Yes, sir. Bill, you can vouch for me right here. Steve and I, way back when, this all come as a result of us fishing ultra heavy cover, and that being at our home lake, lily pad steamers, if you will. It almost looks like bristles on a hairbrush. They're that thick, I promise. This time of year, the pad's gone, but the steamer is sticking up. And there's thousands of them. Many of them are under the water, but a lot of them are breaking the surface. And we love to push a set of rods, most times 6, through the thickest of cover with one jig head, and one tube on a 16th ounce size with a 6-pound line. Love it. Most fun you'll ever have right now, and I ought to be doing it instead of talking to y'all. No, I'm telling you, it's time to do it early right now before any of that vegetation starts coming out of the ground and breaking dormancy, basically, and start heading toward the surface. It's like these fish live there, and the door's open so you can catch them right now. The door's about to be closed about the second week of March. Those pads will have topped out. You can't even get a hook to them by the second week of March at my lake. The end of February, the male black crappie will be black as the ace of spades. They got that war paint on. They have to do their spawning prior to that vegetation topping out at my lake, the black crappie. So it's early. It happens early at home for the black ones, and that's just my lake. Every lake's different. My white crappie in my lake will be hitting their peak about the 3rd week of April to the 4th week of April. The male fish will be on those logs, on some of those specific trees. You'll catch several of them in a spot. They'll be really colored up. But that's a huge difference in species spawning. That's probably one of the biggest differences that I know of. The Florida fish are not separated that much. We don't catch any white ones in Florida anyway. But the blacks down there, you'll catch them really deep sometimes and shallow. But at home, mostly all the blackfish are caught shallow in real foot. But that's something you would not otherwise know if I hadn't told you that. It's something we've learned over the years. And you know, real foot is no different than the other lakes we fish. They all have different attitudes. They are different. You go to Truman Lake and it's different. You go some Ozarks right across the road, it's different. It's different than Truman. Everywhere you go, you learn something. You learn something about the way the lake wants to give them up for you. And it's crazy because once you go to one of them places and it works out for you, you'll always remember to relate it to the next lake you go to that's similar. And I think it's one of our best assets that we have fished so many years in so many different conditions in so many places that there is a stored library, I promise. If y'all can pull it out of us, that myself and Steve have put together, that we don't have to pull the book off the shelf and look and read. We know because we remember. You learn the hard way, you remember the hard way, right? So that's what I'm here. Y'all pull it out of us and shoot any other questions. Man, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I'd love to give anybody an answer for anything crappie.
Explain how those singles work in those pads.
Okay, the rod holders. Well, you can tell I ramble a bunch. Those T-bars are gonna migrate out of your arsenal. I guarantee it. Steve and I come up with those independent rod holders way back when. Driftmaster makes one called the Gunslinger. That's our design. Tight Lock also makes one. The Widowmaker. That's our design. We got to that point with those independent holders because of that structure I was talking about. You can adjust that pole holder to fit whatever is coming at you, whether it's heavy cover or you're not in so much cover. I'll typically try to migrate toward the thick cover. I can adjust every pole on a touch of a finger instantly. You cannot do that with a T-bar. There's no way you can do that with a T-bar. Also with a T-bar, when you touch one of your 4 rods that is typically in a T-bar, the other 3 is all being disturbed. There's lots of stuff happening there. It could make you get a bite, or it could make you not get a bite. And most time I think it's the knot, honestly. So if you ever fish with single ones and then go back to a T-bar, you will realize then what an advantage they will be for you. So, not telling you to go buy them. You can catch crappie with any kind of rod holder up there. Just make sure it's stable and still. But honestly, at the end of the day, you'll catch more with the independent holders. If you just want to buy the best, I'm telling you. But so that's my 2 cents worth on holders. Nobody's got independent except Bill. That's it. Man, that's crazy. How many people run a 360 transducer on their trolling motor? I'm telling you. I'm here to tell you, if these 2 things that I've mentioned, if you're serious about crappie fishing, next time I come and talk to you, you'll have both of them. You will. I cannot tell you how important it is for me to be able to see what's coming at me with that 360 transducer. When they first came out, I had a unit that wasn't compatible, Humminbird unit that wasn't compatible with that 360 transducer, and I bought the cheapest unit that Humminbird made with a big screen to use it on. And that unit number is 1159. I don't know if anybody's 1159 or not. That's the cheapest route to go if you want to buy the unit to match the transducer that'll work for you. 1159, cheapest route, about $600. Hey, you can't beat that. The rest of them are, you got to talk to Santa Claus about. A lot higher, I'm telling you. Anyway, that screen on that 1159 stays 99.9% of the time locked in on what's coming at me next with that 360 transducer. I almost never switch screens with that one. I'm looking at a stump coming at me or a stake bed. I can tell exactly the first loop on that 360 is a 15-foot ring. My poles are 14 foot typically. I know exactly when my hook's in the structure. Before it touches it, inches before it touches it, I know that my hook is going to be in the structure. You cannot imagine at the end of the day what kind of advantage that is. If fish are relating to structure, you have to have it to compete. Nobody's gonna outfish you with that kind of technology at your fingertips out there. I mean, I can pick out a little stump on the bottom that's no bigger than a Coke bottle, and I can push my set over there and make sure that one of 2 poles touch it. And it's no bigger than that. It's in 12 foot of water. And right there is where I catch the one that's going to win me the money sometimes, most of the time, in small spots that nobody's put a hook in. These big obvious places, boy, they're fun to fish. You catch a bunch of fish, get enough to invite a bunch of buddies over there. But really, that's not the places typically where we make our money. It's the tiniest of spots in the smallest of depressions or contours that we try to key on. In places where big fish want to be and are comfortable. When they start getting shallower, they sure start being a lot more careful. That's my observation for catching a big female in 3 to 5 foot of water. She's pretty particular about what she's doing. And she's not going to usually knock the fire out of your bite or bait, whatever it is. It's going to be a slow bite. You might not even know it was a bite sometimes. It could be that subtle. But boy, they smart and they careful to bite what they bite, and I'm proud they bite once in a while though. So that's what we're chasing right there is the 7 biggest fish in a tournament. Any other questions about it at all? Minnow rig, yeah.
Well, it's not been a rig. We've got into the last few years pushing road runners.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How do y'all typically?
Yeah, you can do that. You need to basically just replace this hook, but these sinkers, these quarter through ones, they're going to be probably too light for you. You'll need to go up to the 2, 1.5, 2. You know how deep you're pushing. I can tell you that the way you probably push road runners or any bladed bait now, we do that with crankbaits a lot of times. Just quickly, it comes to mind. This is a design that we come up with. We second place in the national championship, should have won it. Had him on the hook, didn't dip him up. With this rig right here, it was at Pickwick Lake. 3-way swivel. 30-inch dropper at the top. 30-inch dropper. 100 series crankbait on the end of that 30-inch dropper. 36-inch base. 36-inch base. The 30 needs to swing and not hit the next swivel. 30, 36. 3-way, another 3-way. Another 30. Come back to the 3-way, 6 inches. And a swivel for a 2, 3, 4 ounce sinker. 5 ounce even, depending on how deep. Your bottom 30 dropper should swing way under the sinker. It'll swing way low under the sinker. 300 series on it. I call it the digger. Drop the sinker to the bottom. It don't take long either with a 5 ounce. Gone. Crank her up. You got to at least get it past 30 inches off the bottom. Crank her up. Get it above 30. Because if you don't, at 30, your digger's digging. He's in the mud. Get it above 30, wherever you want to start. I usually start low. I'll crank her up above 30, set it in the holder. So I got a digger, I'm calling the 300 a digger. It's running under the sinker. It's never gonna get tangled up in the sinker. You got a baseline that's running vertical, right up front. You pushing this thing, more than a mile an hour, at least 1, 2, something. You're pushing pretty good. When you hit some structure with that, it's immediate. No doubt that pole, it's going. First thing you do is grab it with both hands and rip it right up out of there. Rip it. You just got to rip it. Very, very seldom do we ever lose any tackle. I got some little bit bigger line now. But most of the time, when we rip it, that sinker will run right over top of the structure, the crankbait's right behind it. Bam! As soon as it comes across that structure, you got him. Maybe 2. I can put those crankbaits precisely in structure where it takes a fella pulling them out the back a whole lot more time to do. And it's an aggressive way of fishing. I'm talking, you need a football helmet and some gloves. I mean, it's crazy, but they'll bite them if you can get them down there. Pickwick Lake is where we should have won that national championship doing that. We caught so many bass doing that the fish that was coming up, that was the winner, right at about 2 o'clock. I said, I got a pretty good one. I think it's a crappie. Really can't tell. You got all this weight, you got all this stuff happening. And we was running about 4 or 5 rods, I think. 4, 5, maybe 5. It was a center rod, dead front of the trolling motor. I run smack over top of the treetop. I'm talking about somebody old brush top running right over the top of it. And that's where he was. Anyway, had him coming up. We done caught so many of these spots, but it don't feel like a spot. And sure enough, it wasn't. And he was caught right in the nose. The biggest one that we saw the whole tournament. And the last time I seen him, he was doing his best to swim back down out of about 25 foot where he bit. And Steve hit him on the tail with a net going down. And really, it was our fault we didn't win that one because Steve didn't get the net quick enough. We thought we had a bass. There's always them things that's going to happen, but I'm telling you, it should have been one with a set of pushing cranks that time. But that's a very effective way to cover some water. If they'll bite, a reaction bite, you can be pretty competitive pushing them. But boys, it'll have trouble now. I'm telling you, it's a huge. If you're going to try it for the first time, I'd just go with one. Go with one dropper, and try it. But I leave just enough, about 6 to 8 inches of line between my last 3-way and the sinker. What I do is when I'm hooking this thing up, I'll wrap that sinker around my pole, just like an old catfish rig, basically. But that was our design. We have modified that thing to fish. I won't tell Bill this. We've modified it to fish tiny crankbaits in 5 foot of water. But you have to reduce everything, length, everything's reduced, and we was flying, and we was.
I'm a power trolling fool. That's what I learned how to do.
Well, we was fishing right down the middle of the schooner timber, buddy, right in front of the old house up there when it was going dry in the fall, and we just hung every second, but we could make them bite because we was going fast, and they wouldn't otherwise bite, going slow. But we was fishing the little crawdaddies with the tiny, I'm talking about tiny stuff that they had to bite them. So that's one extreme. Yes, sir. One extreme to another. Hey, that was the smallest bait we had, really. That would cause a vibration. So hey, it works. All I know, that's one extreme to the other. There's probably a happy medium right there. You can go with like a 2 ounce or 1.5 ounces and get by with it in 12 foot of water, that kind of thing. Fun deal, fun to try something else, but I'm telling you, it worked for us. I don't put all my chips on it, but it was something that we could do at Pickwick, and we almost won it.
The road runner deal, like we've been running like 0.8, 1,
2, yeah. Just
one of y'all do anything?
yes, sir. Yeah, 2. 2 ounces is what it takes to stay vertical. Typically, at the speed you need to go. 2, at least 2. 1.5 ounces won't do it. You got to go to 2, pulling them out, pushing them out fast. And yeah, I've done it. I'll still go back to the what we've based everything on. Our whole career is taking our time, and the big fish that we win tournaments with will be ultra slow. I know you can catch a lot of fish doing that, and you can catch some monsters from time to time, but day in and day out, I've had more success with the monsters that it takes to win going slow. And that's me. I guarantee you there's another person right here probably that'll tell you the opposite. But that's me.
That's slow just in the wintertime when it's cold, or you do that in summer?
No, you can't. Now you can catch them going pretty fast, but I'm telling you, the colder that water is, you're going to have to slow her up. I seen Reelfoot one with 1/4 ounce single quarters pushing them pretty faster than I would expect, and it was cold, and they called them Reelfoot on us one year over there. Not to say you can't catch them. If they're aggressive, they'll bite, but more often than not, slow is going to be my choice. I'll speed up as a last resort. I'll say that usually. Okay. Anything else? Poles, pole holders, boats? Yes, sir. Yep. You got something?
You wanted to know if you went slow in the summer as well. I mean,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
year round, you want to go slow.
Bill now brought up, summer fishing is way different than spring fishing. Typically for me, first of all, you're dealing with a whole lot less water quality than you are in the spring. You're dealing with some problems most of the time. That schooner got bad on us over there. It was real bad, matter of fact. They're basically in survival mode when water gets bad. I mean, they are forced to be at a comfort zone, wherever it might be in that water column. They're going to find it. You bet on that. That's where that minnow rig, the last hour I talked about, those minnows telling me a whole lot of info, and they will. If you're in some bad water, it won't take an old minnow long. He'll crinkle up on you and die on you, or at least he'll be very lethargic when you pull him out of the water. You may have one on the bottom that's completely dead. Your top minnows are all good. Hey, that tells you a whole lot. I need to be fishing above where I've been fishing for sure, but typically that's the comfort zone right there. At least it's survival. A fish can survive right there and be comfortable. So hey, without a minnow, if I was fishing all artificial, I'd never known that. So that minnow rig will tell you a lot of stuff sometimes. But get it on up there and get it in that zone. But I typically use a lot smaller bait in the summer. Hot, July, August. Set up a 2.5, 3, 3.25, 3.5 inch minnow like we do down here in the spring. I'm gonna back up and it's gonna be 2.5. Tiny. You'll get much more action out of a small minnow than you will a big one. If you don't believe me, hook him on there about July. The big one won't make it 2 minutes. He's done. A little one, boy, he's still raring to go, trying to fight. I'm all about downside. A fish at that point in time, the summer, don't need fuel. He don't need fuel. Bait is a diamond. Bait's everywhere, typically, but they don't need fuel in July. They sure do right now before this spawn. So they're gobbling up about everything in front of them. They'll bite bigger baits and so on and so forth. But at that point, it's hard to get one to bite sometimes, and I'll downsize mostly everything. I'll slow down too. B&M has a video that we do a section, and it was a quick day. We done it in July, and it was so hot you couldn't breathe, and there was no other boat on the whole lake. But we managed to catch a nice bunch of fish at Reelfoot Lake in the middle of the day. It was 1 o'clock, the hottest part of the day. And Russ Bailey showed up and said, "Man, we gotta do some minnow rigging and do it fast." I said, "Oh boy, this ain't good. Because I don't know if we can catch a fish." And we got out there and got in the deep water and got in a place where I like to stay. And mostly all year long, I catch fish there in that area. We managed to catch them, but boy, they was about 3.5, 4 foot deep and about 12 foot of water. And we caught them ultra slow, and we caught some good fish. But we downsized our minnows, had light quarters on there, made it work. If you went out there with big minnows and 1/2 ounce minnow rigs with 3/4, probably would not have scored. It makes a huge difference right there when they're very, very finicky to bite. Makes a huge difference. If you want to always go as light as you can, but there's only so far you can go. So I try to push that limit at that time of year for sure. Yes, sir.
You said you bang 2 poles and a double rig.
And a set of single jig sets. Yes, sir.
When do you fish that?
When I fish a single jig, it's always going to be pretty shallow water, typically shallower than 7 foot, 7, 8 foot, and heavy structure. You better bet I'm looking for the thickest. He can't get too thick. If my boat won't go through it, I'm in the right spot.
Jig fish with multiple rods.
Yes, sir, I can do it. I guarantee you, I can go through there with 8 of them lickety split. Yep, I done it right down here at Whittington Lake, and we was fishing young willows, millions of them. I don't know how many. They was just about as thick as them lily pad stems. We fished them for 2 days. We should have won down there. But second, I've been bridesmaid just as many times as I've been
Watch out.
the bride. We just bam when you're the bridesmaid. Okay, I'm gonna get your question right now. Yes, sir.
What's the best place to look at?
Best place to hook it. I always hear it. You can hook them a bunch of spots. I even learned a little bit. There's some boys from Toledo Bend says you got to hook them in the tail the last hour. He liked it. I'm all about it. Probably where he's at, it worked. Must have. 99.99. I'll never hook one anywhere other than as far out on the end of the lips as I can. When you think you're not quite far enough, try a little bit further. If he falls off, you done gone too far. How's that?
That's good.
That layer of skin between the lip and basically the rest of the jaw, the mouth of the minnow, it's the same as on the crappie. You want to get it in that thin layer of skin right there because there's more activity from your minnow if you can hook it perfect. I'm bad. If I foul hook one, he's gone. I might hook one twice. If I'm in a hurry and make a bad hook, he's gone. I'm gonna rehook another minnow on it. If I ever touch a piece of structure and damage my minnow, if I get bit on it, he's gone. I use a lot of bait. I use precisely the right size of bait. I might have to buy 5 or 10 pounds of bait to get 1 or 2 pounds of minnow I want to put on my hook. That presents a problem sometimes if they're not graded. So very important the way you hook them. You'll get the maximum action right at the tip. And they're strong to stay on the hook too. They won't, unless you hang up or something or a fish bite it, he's there. He's gonna hang with you. Yep. Yes, sir. Okay. I have seen them hooked in the eyes though.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people that still believe in that, and for whatever reason. Yes, sir. Any other minnow rigging question? Yes, sir. Look over. You know, that's where they're the most fun to fish, where there's not a lot of structure, really. Is the water pretty stained? Is it stained up medium? The fish really relate to structure hard there? A lot? I mean, not really. If they're suspended out roaming, I'm telling you, you can't go wrong with a minnow rig set. Down here at Grenada and Sardis and Enid and Arcabola and any of these lakes that typically keep the stained water year round almost. It clears up in the fall, late fall sometimes, but typically it's stained. Washington will be stained green, Grenada will be stained brown, as long as we got some stain. A fish feels a little more camoed. He's camoed when he's in stained water versus an ultra clear water like maybe Kentucky Lake. He's gonna find some structure, you can bet, if it's clear water. And what I'm calling clear water relates to the clarity at Kentucky Lake. So, but down here, that's the method of choice, honestly. They'll get a legal set of rods and get on the front of the boat, either go downwind or upwind where they can control it, and they'll have 6 or 8 rods with minnow rigs, and they're gonna come home with some fish. I'm gonna tell you, it's almost impossible not to do good. At Sardis, I'll pick that lake for a few reasons. It's always produced more numbers, and now it's producing more size than it's ever produced, ever. But day in and day out, I think Sardis over the big 4 here would be my pick for numbers and some really big fish too. That's me. But over the years, it's produced a bunch of them, really. But go down there to the dam, throw you out a set of minnow rigs, see what happens about. Should be down there right now. I bet you, has anybody fished lately, Sardis? Come on, Ron, have you? You telling me.
They're there.
Don't you tell me. Tell me the truth. Really, when? Yeah. So nobody else is, you've been in the
They're
middle?
up there on that ledge where
What's
y'all
wrong
tried
with
to fish
you?
that tornado we had there
Yeah.
in ACT. They're out
Oh,
on
yeah.
that ledge right there.
I'm telling you,
Right down with these on the same ledges.
it's a fun thing. If you never done the minnow rigging thing before, that's the place to go do it, because you're subject to fish most of the day and not even touch a piece of structure out there. If it's pretty clear, you're gonna have to get on down there. 16, 18, 20 even, maybe even deeper than that, depending on how
Those lakes you can fish the contours real easy.
Yeah.
It's a contour lake. They like those changing contours.
no doubt.
Chasing bait balls.
There's excuse me?
Chasing bait balls.
Yep, they'll do that. They'll definitely do that. They sure will. They'll be under the bait typically. You'll see them. I'd rather follow a contour 10 to 1 than I had fish a bait ball. I have had to do that before, but Lake of the Ozarks is one place they really did follow a lot of bait around and caught a lot of fish doing that. Some of the boys did. But honestly, I'd rather fish a contour. To me, a crappie is just like any other panfish. It's kind of like a rabbit on a fence row, if you will. There's going to be way more rabbits on the fence row than it is out roaming out in the middle of the field, typically. So it's pretty easy to figure out when you follow a creek channel and it's got structure on it. It ain't gonna take you long to get you a bite. Yeah, sure enough. You leave a few up there now. Good luck, man. Okay, anything else, y'all? Hey, I know it's cold, very cold water right now. I meant to mention earlier, had some gentlemen here earlier that anyway, I won't say it, but if you're gonna fish this time of year, get you a life jacket that will float you for sure 100% of the time, and put that rascal on. These inflatables are great. They'll go on and you not even know you have it on. But honestly, I had a drowning just before I come up here at Kentucky Lake, and it was a kayaker, didn't have a life jacket on. And it all goes back to the temperature of the water a lot of times this time of year. And that's when really the crappie are biting the best a lot of places. But if you hit that water and you hit it when it's this cold or colder or even warmer than this, we're probably in the 40s, I bet, right now, still. At the most 50. But a rule of thumb, if you get in the water and it's 50 degrees, you got a 50-50 chance of surviving. heard that a long time ago. I'll just share it. But honestly, you won't be able to at least float, whether you can maneuver much or not. At least we'll get you, hopefully. So wear your life jacket. And another little tip I mentioned earlier, me and Steve won't ever be in a competitive tournament in a cold, windy day where we don't have a small 6-pack cooler full of hot water with us. It don't have to be boiling water. You just go right over to the kitchen sink and run you a cooler about 2/3 full of hot tap water. As long as you got pretty hot water, everything will be fine. That cooler will last you all day. For one thing, when you do get in a bind with some very cold hands, and a lot of times that happens, especially when you got high wind. If you got some really cold hands, you got to be able to tie a knot. And honestly, I cannot do that sometimes. They get so cold. You have a problem staying warm. That cooler water gets you working. You put your hand in that warm water, and a lot of times you'll get spoiled too if you ain't careful. But get one of them roll top 6-pack coolers, them old ones, they work great. I'll put it right in front of my Minnow bucket. If I had to have something warm on my hand, well, I'll flip that lid, my hand's in there for about a minute or less, and I can tie knots left and right for a while. It'll get you going, and it'll get you going faster than any dry heat that I know of. So that's just a little wintertime tip from me. I know that one of the pictures that we got there, we got a big old heater, and I'm telling you, I don't like it. The wind will usually blow it out if it's one of them days that you really need it anyway. And you're gonna burn line into. There's all kind of negatives to having dry heat. It's really not my choice. That little cooler full of warm water that'd be my choice. So, any other questions, y'all? Bill, I'll even answer one for you.
You wouldn't answer mine.
What was it?
Where are you gonna fish and make the heavy?
Oh gosh.
I'm kidding.
You know what? If it's settled and there's no big rain or influx of water, that thing will probably be one in the river, in the main river.
And that river's what, like 30, 40 miles long?
It's long, but it's a lake that's full. It's a Coosa River. It was.
Be more specific, such as a white point.
Yeah.
No.
I haven't been there in like 10 years. We've caught some good fish down there before,
I've heard there's
and
good fish. I'm looking forward to going to fishing.
Yep.
Just
You-
because I've never been.
you do have the chance to catch that hybrid down there, man. And you never know if they're gonna be in
I want to catch
18
a
inches or
bad.
30 foot of water down there. It's crazy. But there's some whales in that place.
Yeah, I've heard
It is.
I'm excited about going.
Anybody else here fish competitive? Any of the circuits at all? Ever? Oh, come on. Really? Try one. Hey, you never tried one? Pick your one out. Just give it a shot.
There's a
I
lot
don't.
of local stuff like the fruit yard tournaments where you can be
Oh, yeah.
competitive, learn a lot of stuff, and
Yep.
it's not a big high dollar deal. You don't have to worry about fishing with these guys or whatever. It's more of a local level competition.
Honestly-
really a lot of fun.
Honestly, I'm bringing what I'm bringing to the table because we've been put in a competitive field of fishing. That's really, if you just pick out the good days to go, you're going to be fine. You're going to be happy and don't have to worry about it. But if you have to go and the conditions are bad, that's how you really learn a whole lot. So I recommend getting in that boat when it's terrible sometimes. Give it a shot. And you never know what a tournament's going to put in front of you. It's usually bad though. I had an old saying a long time ago. I said, if it ain't blowing, we ain't going. That's the way it works usually. Anyway, any other questions on the lake? Anything? Any other lake you might fish that I could help out?
Like Washington,
Washington, boy, I got some monster fish in that thing.
we go there every year.
Yeah.
Push minutes there, we go there.
Yes, sir. We hadn't fished Washington that many times. We fished it this year in the national championship, and Washington is a really fertile lake. That water stays pea green almost year round down there, which not very deep, no. But having that color to the water puts your fish in a suspended state, typically out there, and they're comfortable. They feel hid. The water looks like soup almost, pea soup, if you will. It's so fertile. But those fish roam out there a lot. They're not really relating to structure. I'm sure in the spring they'll be on the trees and stuff. You can catch a lot of fish that way. But typically they're just roaming. And we happened to hit down at Washington at a time when the water quality was probably at its worst. We was coming out of the summer heat, and I know when we were there, the particular end, we fished the far end, the north end, or the south end, that water quality was terrible down there. We saw more fish than we caught, I believe, that day. They were right on top of the water, within a foot of the surface, typically is where they wanted to be, foot and a half. And I hit one with a trolling motor, thought I killed him. But we saw bigger fish than we actually weighed in. Now that's pretty rare. But that tells you a whole lot that they were wanting to be right on top, and they were so close to the top, and we had no wind conditions. We could not be quiet enough to get close enough to those fish to get the bite. Many times we'd spook them, and they were running everywhere on top of the water. It was crazy. So basically, and we wasn't in a position to do it, but re-rigging and basically doing some long lining, slow long lining, some distant fishing, pulling, getting away from the boat would have probably been the answer for us to do a little better than we did. The other answer was getting some better water. Well, in a tournament, you really don't have time to look for some better water if you hadn't had time to find it prior to the tournament. It just kind of seemed like to me it got bad overnight where we were at. It was crazy. But right after that, we had a little coon snout, and they tore them up. I knew they would. They'll bite. They will. But they have to feel a little bit comfortable. And they were stressed when we was there. So we barely managed what we did. Any other questions? Lakes, techniques, crankbaiting? Well, I'm sure you got a question. Somebody does. Where are you from, sir? Yep. Yep. You fish grenade, I bet. Yep. Barnett is a lot of fun. I won't ever forget. I can't call where I was at. I was on the shoreline though, and I was fishing out of a G-Nu, a little small fiberglass boat with a small motor on it. I was fishing, pre-fishing for a tournament. My job for the pre-fishing section of our tournament was to find some male fish on the shoreline that we could hide from the wind on. Because I think we was expecting to have to deal with 20, 30 mile an hour wind that weekend. So my chore was to find some males, and hopefully there's going to be big males to be competitive with. Because I knew that wasn't going to be able to fish in the big water. Steve fished the big lake in the other boat, and that's when we could use two boats back then. But I will never forget a little stump that I found about the size of a gallon jug or a little bit smaller, single stump among a big patch of stumps, mid-lake, east shoreline. I caught 16 head off of this one. I caught them until I got tired fishing, and they was all monsters. And then, so that filled up a 5-gallon bucket. There were some more boys fishing there, and I give them the 5-gallon bucket. I kept on trucking, but I won't ever forget what a fun day I had fishing shallow for them males down there. That was so fun. And there's all big fish, man. You got the fish. You got them, no doubt. So, yeah, we'll be coming that way. Don't they have a, yep. I think we're coming to see you. Don't catch them all before we get there. Yep. Well, anyway, yep. I do. I have. Yes, sir. I probably caught I don't know that it's been broke. We had a 18-pound stringer or 7 in the fall. It's 18. It's been a while. We won that thing up on upper end up there fishing inches deep in the mud back a few years ago. Yeah, and it was whales in those little fingers, and we got in a big fun day right there. Caught some monsters one time. But yeah, Hernando Point.
That's what I'm talking about. Last year, we were pushing them rollers, man. I'm telling you, 3 to 4 foot of water.
Yeah. Yep.
You know how they can fish it too.
That's some good ones. You get spoiled fishing in places like that. Yeah, right quick. Yes, sir. Well, any other thing I can answer question-wise or help you out or anything, I'd be glad to. we'll be sticking around here for a little bit. Before you go, I need to know this. We got how many miles? How many hours are you away from home? Nobody's even close to being from out. Look here, B&M also makes a crappie checker. It's basically a device that'll do quite a few different things. For one, it'll tell you an approximate average year, how old that fish is by year. Okay, it won't be perfect, but it'll be pretty close. It'll also tell you an estimated weight of the fish, if you'll check it out, according to the fish's length. The main reason that I designed that thing was to hold the fish to keep him from flopping while I pop the air bladder to keep him alive during the fall, later part of the year when the water temperatures started to go up. But anyway, say you had a 14-inch fish and you measured him in that checker. There's a hole, basically a little slit, and you would find the number 14 hole, and you'd insert a hypodermic needle in that 14 spot, and it would deflate his air bladder without fail. So there's no mistakes to be had to basically deflate an air bladder with that thing. And that was for me. We've now shared it with people that want it. It'll measure a fish that's 16 inches long. My wife caught a 301 to whatever, 5, whatever it was. Yeah, 5, I better not forget that. Anyway, we liked it, not got him in and out of it. She was popping, she was thick. So it will measure a 3-pounder, barely. More than likely, you'll not have a 3-pound crappie unless it exceeds 16 inches. And that's, if I seen one that's, I don't think I've ever, maybe yes I have, one in my life that was less than 16 inches and still top 3. Kentucky Lake. Yes, sir. It's very rare though. It has to be football shaped almost to do that. But it better be over 16 at Grenada if she's gonna weigh 3. That's a heartbreaker when you put in there, it won't quite touch 16, I know. But there's a bunch of them like that. They'll be 214 is what they are. Yes, sir. 250. This year will be a little different. It'll be a little different, I think. There'll be some 3s. A bunch of them show up, I think. Should be. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's all because of your regulation down there. They live a little bit longer. Sure are. But anyway, this would be yours since you done traveled the farthest. Yeah, you can get it, whatever.
I wanted that.
And yeah, B&M, they have those available on the website. Go to bnmpose.com. You'll be able to order it online if you're interested in one. Pretty nice thing to have in the boat. Most of the checkers usually measure up to about 10. Down here you need at least over a 12. They have to be over 12 to be legal, so that will take care of you. Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out here. I can tell you that B&M poles and reels are the reason we're here. They sponsored this whole thing, and they're trying to get crappie fishing to a different level than it has been all these years. I think we've probably seen our better days over the course of all the tournaments we fished. If we as young and as gung-ho as we used to be, it takes a lot of work. It really does. And we've seen our probably best days. Not to say we can't win one though, but they've been behind us since day one, I have to say, and they've listened to a bunch of us on product for you to maybe catch more fish out there. And they have a pole designed for just about any situation that you're going to do technique-wise. Dock shooting, power trolling, if you're casting, if you're fishing with jigs, single jig set, BGJPs, if you're going to fish with a one pole, my one pole guy left, a BBUL. I don't know how many of you ever tried a BBUL Best. It's a Buck's Best Ultralight. I love that rod. It's the lightest one out there with a reel seat on the back. That's my favorite. If you had never tried that single pole jig fishing, give it a shot. BBUL. Most all these poles I've mentioned come in a variety of sizes. The one pole that's not in stock at this time at Bass Pro here is our pole. Actually, go figure. But it's sold out. You can go to bnmpose.com and get them. The pole that's a Capps and Coleman trolling rod was made specifically for the Minnow rig that I've talked about all night. It's a little bit of It's a little bit more. We go this way. The lightest rod he has is a BGJP. The next step up is my trolling rod as far as flexibility. And the next step above that would be the Pro Staff controller. The next above that is a super stiff Pro Staff that they've got. There's four weights of rods. Mine is the second step up to support the Minnow rig weight. And I think you'll like it if you try it with a couple with the Minnow rigs. It's pretty hard to beat. But anyway, I'll be quiet. If anybody's got any questions, I'd love to answer them. And thanks for coming out. Give B&M a chance on the rod rack over there, and we sure appreciate you coming.
I'm gonna tell you about B&M. Their customer service is